Honorable Principal Dr. Dept, Dr. Jerome, Dr. George Sebastian, and my dear friends. I was just telling Dr. George Sebastian that I'm a bit nervous. It's been at least 15 years since I stepped into a lecture hall to deliver a lecture, if at all this is a lecture. For you, this may be an invention of the father. I don't belong to academia at all. So, those people who are familiar with theory know what an other is all about, self and other. So for you, this is the dreaded other who walks into the sanctum sanctorum and disturb the sacredness of the whole atmosphere, because I work in popular cinema, as he rightly pointed out, making big budget cracks. You are learning high literature, stuff like Wasteland. But I belonged to this place, and went out and coming back occasionally. So that is why Freud said that repressed will always come back. However hard you try to repress something, the repress will come back. In the form of a joke, I may be a joke. In the form of a nightmare, I may be a nightmare. Dreams, whatever. Secondly, I know that my dear friend George is teaching you the Wasteland. So he is doing his job pretty well, I know that. And, from the point of view of writing your examination, stick to what he has taught you. So whatever I say about this poem may not be helpful from that point of view. It can be hugely damaging also. Don't take me seriously. Why I told you this is, my own encounter with the Wasteland happened way back in 84-85 when I was an undergraduate at Newman College, Trivandrum. For the undergraduate program, the Wasteland was not a prescribed text. But we were all keenly into what you call the movement of modernism in Malayalam literature. And Malayalam poetry was hugely influenced by Western poetry, and Wasteland undoubtedly was a seminal text. Dr. Ayub Panikar translated it traditionally, and his own Kurukshetra, written in 1960, published in 1960, clearly shows a predominant influence of poetry. So, as part of incessant, relentless reading and engagement with literature, I read Wasteland when I was around 18 or 19. They didn't understand a thing. I mean, most of the books I used to read during those times, I didn't understand anything. But you keep on reading. It becomes an obsession. It becomes an act in itself, which creates some kind of a pleasure and some kind of a meaning, though you don't derive any meaning out of it. Almost all difficult texts like Joyce, Ulysses. But even then I was struck by certain features of Wasteland, which I found extremely curious. was asking myself, why this guy is using so many languages? Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, German, French. How so many languages become easily available for a point, to write a point? That is something very curious. That question really haunted me. Then, due to the peculiar circumstances of my life, the circumstances under which I pursued my studies, my father was an English professor. So English was always part of an Oedipal revolt for me. My father was an English professor, and I studied in a Malayalam medium school in Thodupuzha. My father was an English professor in Newman College, Thodupuzha. So he was confident my only son is studying in a Malayalam medium school. I was a very, very unhealthy child, so he really wanted to shift me to some boarding school where I can be taught in English, chaste English. So my father made me read Discovery of India, written by Jawaharlal Nehru, when I was studying in 7th standard or something. I used to hate it. My serious differences and hatred against Congress party started then, as a part of the Oedipal revolt. There was nothing rational about it. I simply, dreaded the sight of his Discovery of India lying on my father's table when I came back to school, itching to go out and play. So this guy made my days very difficult. So English was thrust upon me. And also, there is this intimidating test called Remapping. I was supposed to, do all the exercises, 2 exercises at least a day, said in that text. So grammar becomes a parental tyranny for me. How can you break the grammar? That is the first question a child asks. Revolting against parental tyranny. Don't do this, don't go there, want to go there. So my engagement with English started off as an Oedipal journey, which, as you know, involves a lot of love and hate. Why I told you this is precisely something which I kept on doing, which I kept on perform all through my life. Ironically, my father wanted me to join in an engineering college when I could finish my pre-degree. I cleared REC and IIT entrance examination, was a good student in the conventional sense, and without his permission and knowledge, I went and joined for BA English Literature in Toronto. So that is the culmination of Oedipal revolt. He used to terrify me with literature. I punished him back with literature. So literature has become a very powerful Oedipal tool. So then he told me, if that is your wish, pursue it, but find money yourself. So I was compelled to teach Wasteland in 86, 87 in a private tuition center when I was a BA student. So, a lot of, aids like, WeGuide and stuff like that, so it came handy, and by using that, I used to teach this in a very conventional manner. But I was absolutely sure that something is really wrong with the way I look at Wasteland, or this text has to be opened up in a very different manner. But opening up a text in a different manner doesn't suit the demands our curriculum, I understand that. Because whenever I tried doing so in my examination paper, we always stick to the usual academics. As the teacher, the respected principal told you in a nutshell what was Wasteland is all about. That is the image which is produced and reproduced and transmitted to you across decades. But I always believe classroom is a place where you have to be really under. You have to be really unsettled. Our classrooms, to what extent they do that, I am very doubtful about it. But great teachers rattle you, unsettle you. Since Sebastian mentioned about my teacher, B.C. Harris, whom I always address by name, who was my MPhil supervising teacher also. And I produced my dissertation on T.S. Eliot. Harris used to be one who really rattled you, who really, you threw him into disarray. There is no consolation from him. There is no certainty from him. He simply raises questions. If you try to answer him, more questions. Again, more questions. So then I learned the best way to confront him is to raise counter questions. So that is a process which I think students of literature have to learn and have to practice in order to understand the complexity of our country, the history which has made us all what we are. Having said this, I also remember, there are some professors and lecturers who go by the textbook, but whose unobtrusive essays hit you like a heart with a wisdom out of nowhere. I remember my professor Bobby Thomas, who taught me Hamlet in Newman College. Professor Bobby Thomas was a very conventional teacher who used to stick to the textbook, the perpetual postponement of decisions by Hamlet, existential angst, this, that. But once, as I was sitting in this class, quite bored to confess, he made a remark. He said, he was reading the portions where Hamlet was killed. So Hamlet says, "Oh, I am slain." Okay? So he says, "You Shakespeare lepru ആര് ചത്താലും ഞാൻ ചത്തേന്ന് പറയും." മലയാളത്തിലെ പറഞ്ഞത് ഈ ഷേക്സ്പിയറിലെ ആര് ചത്താലും ഞാൻ ചത്തേന്ന് പറയും. It hit me like anything. So that sentence really haunted me. How can a dead man say that I am dead? When he says I am dead, is he dead or alive? So there is a threshold between this death and life. You can be both, You are dead and you are alive. And you are neither dead nor alive. The curious borderline. That borderline where your quetito, your consciousness, is really split into two. The person who says, I am dead, is a person who is living. And the subject is the object in that sentence. I is divided into two. I who is alive and I who is dead. So this I is not a unified entity. I is always split. The question is always splintered. So like your every sentence, this uncertainty, this ambiguity of the self is being played out. That is why when the impatient lady in the wasteland asks her partner, what are you thinking? What thinking? What think? So what are you thinking? That full sentence become just the word think in the end. I think we are in the right alley where dead man lost his bones, right? And precisely that is a very good description for Wasteland. Wasteland is a right alley where dead man loses all their bones. So modernism, Wasteland is a product of modernism. I just want to say a few things regarding that. Then I will go on and possibly show you the ways in which you can really open up this text in a radical manner. But do that at your risk. We know that modernism is a product of the World War, as rightly pointed out by your principal, the disturbing aftermath of the World War. So, ഞാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ കൂടി സംസാരിക്കണം എന്നോട് സഭ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. Is it all right that if I stick to English, I should speak both in Malayalam and English? അപ്പോൾ ലോക മഹായുദ്ധത്തിന്റെ വിനാശകരമായിട്ടുള്ള കെടുതികൾക്ക് ആർട്ടിലുണ്ടായ കലയിലുണ്ടായ ഒരു റിഫ്ലക്ഷനാണ് മോഡേണിസം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സംഗതി. ട്രഡീഷണലി അങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ വിലയിരുത്തുന്നത്. Then what happens in modernism is you find the existing forms of expression inadequate because the world you address is a different world. So your primary enemy in that period was realism. What is realism? Factually reflecting the world outside. If at all there is an outside and inside, you write a novel with the realistic details. Okay? And you keep your temporality in a very linear format. Past, present, and future. You are not confusing. A character has a past, a character has a present, and a character will have a future. So this is a kind of linearity which is maintained by realism, realistic text. But this is a very fine, non-disturbing kind of reality that we are addressing. But with the advent of war, things go haywire. The much spotted lines, coming under the shadow of this world. I will show you something different from your shadow rising to meet you in the morning and your shadow sliding behind you in the evening. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images. So this broken images, fear in a handful of dust. The world is no longer the world it used to be. It is fragmented. Cataclysmic changes. So art needed another form of expression. This is a simple reflection theory which I have serious problems with, but I am just reproducing the conventional way we look at things, But what is actually this new reality Wasteland addressed? What are this disturbing aftermath of the war? I have listed something, I was thinking about it and listed something. You have a class emerging, a new class emerging, especially in England. That is a fag end of the aristocracy, and a new class is emerging. A new class called bourgeoisie, the middle class. You have a lot of middlemen, you have a lot of traders, you have a lot of marketing agents, you have a lot of people. The middle class become very powerful, and it emerged as a very powerful class in the aftermath of war. By emerging as a very dominant class, they really challenge existing values. They started treating things much more casually. The values shrouded in sacredness and dignity suddenly started losing their mystic nature. Another important thing is you have a proliferation of markets, all kinds of markets in the West, in the UK. You have 24/7 shops introduced for the first time in the early part of 20th century. Products became readily available for ordinary people, common people. Proliferation of markets. So that gave job opportunities for so many. So generally when you view capitalism with a critical eye, but the result was that this powerfully emerging bourgeoisie have really questioned radically the existing values, and they were more playful. One of the persisting obsession in Wasteland of Mr. Eliot was about sexuality. He really condemns the casual love-making of a typist and a lover on a divan, and immediately contrasts it with the rendezvous of Queen Elizabeth. That is the thing. In the Oath, she met a secret lover, and the images suggest a comparison with Cleopatra. But he is looking at this working class sexuality with disgust. Her undergarments painlessly spread. That is the expression he uses. And he idealizes sexuality like anything. They call me the hyacinth girl. When I came back from the garden with my handful of flowers and my hair wet, her lover failed her. He wants to keep her seductive posture as such. He doesn't want to disturb it. We remember how the image of a possible rape or a possible amorous conquest is frozen on glacier. And you say that it is timeless. Only there is anticipation. There is no fulfillment. That romantic anticipation is reproduced in a hyacinth girl as a creative impotence. That is the whole point. The lover face is impotent. He cannot act. But that impotence is also the source of poetry. Here the life of Eliot and Wasteland really mingles, Eliot's first marriage was ended in a divorce and he couldn't consummate his marriage. And his wife was driven mad. She became insane. And Eliot himself was spending time in a mental asylum when he wrote Wasteland. So sexuality, madness, everything intertwines. And textual play. So my whole point is, with the establishment of bourgeoisie in the aftermath of World War, a conservative, Eliot, who was a conservative at core, was really disturbed by the invasion of new values. Another thing that really disturbed him, if you read very closely, is the mobility of people. Have you noticed that? In England, public transport became the thing in early 20th century. People started to commute in public transport rather than going in private cabs or taxis. So that is why there are so many, the London Bridge is falling down, there are so many people swarming around the street. He hates seeing these people. What the hell are they doing? They are out in their daily business, getting their daily breads. But he says, this is just like Dante's furniture, right? There he recognizes one, Stetson. What happened to those that corpse you buried in your backyard? Immediately he is obsessed with death. The sight of so many living human beings walking up and down, interacting with each other, filled with the horror of death, is a very ironical thing. So Wasteland, the text is written with such problematics, such contradictions. It's very easy to say that it mirrors the anarchy of the world. It doesn't simply mirror. There is no simple reflection in literature. Everything in literature is ideological, is political, is open to reading. No doubt about it. Consider the opening of Wasteland. April is the cruelest month. Who says? He said, oh, what an opening. ഈ തിരക്കഥ എഴുതുന്നതിന്റെ ഒരു ട്രിക്ക് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആദ്യത്തെ 5 സീനില് നമ്മൾ നെറുകയിലടിക്കണം എന്നുള്ളത്. അത് കഥയിലേക്ക് വരണം. അതുപോലെയാണ് Wasteland opening. April is the cruelest month. You agree without thinking, is it? Why? Who is this guy who is talking about this? What is his authority? From what point of view? Which is the vantage point which permits him to say that April is the cruelest month? Why? Stirring the roots with spring rain, breeding lilacs on a dead land. Winter kept us warm. Winter kept us warm. What is it? Feeding dried tubers with a little, like, what is it? It's feeding dried tubers. Life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Strandberg area with a shower of rain. So there is a reversal, Winter, which is often viewed as a season of death. Our poor Shelley, a few years ago he said, can spring be far behind if winter comes? And this guy says winter kept us warm and April is the cruelest month. He hated Shelley. That is one thing. He was very condescending to Keats. Oh, Keats is a good poet, but he had a lot of promise, but never fulfilled. Had he lived longer, we would have gotten better poets. I tell you, this guy is a tyrannical, his this text. That is my contention, and that is what I wrote in my dissertation. And argued like anything. Don't do that. Don't do it. But this is strictly between us. After finishing your PG, you can perhaps do all this. So, whatever value that Eliot's Wasteland reflects is not an innocent reflection of a pre-existing reality. That is my whole point. Or in other words, there is nothing called a reality outside the text. So, when I speak English, Wasteland ആയതുകൊണ്ട് എന്ത് ഭാഷ വേണമെങ്കിലും ഉപയോഗിക്കാം. അതുകൊണ്ട് സാധാരണ നമ്മള് ഒരു കവിത എഴുതുമ്പോൾ, കഥ എഴുതുമ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു സങ്കല്പം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പുറത്തൊരു യാഥാർത്ഥ്യമുണ്ട്. അതിനെ നമ്മൾ റോ മെറ്റീരിയലായിട്ട് ഉപയോഗിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് അതിനെ നമ്മൾ ഒരു കഥയിലേക്കോ കവിതയിലേക്കോ ട്രാൻസ്ലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും നമ്മുടെ എഴുത്തിലൂടെ എന്നാണ്. ഇതിനാണ് മൈമെറ്റിക് തിയറി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. തിയറി ഓഫ് റെപ്രസെന്റേഷൻ ഓഫ് റിയൽ വേൾഡ് ഇൻ ദ ടെക്സ്റ്റ്. പക്ഷെ സത്യം എന്താണ്? ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു പുറത്തൊരു ലോകം ഉണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ചോദ്യം. ഈ പുറത്തെ ലോകം പോലും ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള നരേറ്റീവുകളിൽ കൂടി നമ്മൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിരിക്കുന്നതാണെന്നുള്ള അവസ്ഥ. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഏറ്റവും ലോകത്ത് മനുഷ്യന് മാത്രമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സ്ഥിതി ഏതാണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ പലരും പലതും പറയും. പക്ഷെ അതിൽ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ടത് മനുഷ്യന് കഥ പറയാൻ പറ്റുന്നതാണ്. കഥ പറഞ്ഞ് മാത്രം, കള്ളം പറഞ്ഞ് മാത്രം ജീവിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ജീവിയാണ് മനുഷ്യൻ. ഈ ലോകത്തെ കുറിച്ച് നമുക്ക് കഥകൾ വേണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ഈ ലോകത്തെ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. നമ്മൾ ഈ ലോകത്തെ കഥകളിലൂടെ മാത്രമാണ് മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. മറ്റുള്ളവരുടെ പറച്ചിലുകളിലൂടെയാണ് നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. അല്ലാതെ അൺമീഡിയേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ട് നമുക്ക് ഈ ലോകത്തെ കുറിച്ച് ഒന്നും അറിയില്ല. We make sense of the world only through narratives. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ ലോകത്തിലെ ഏറ്റവും മനോഹരമായ സംഗതി നരേറ്റീവാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അമ്മ കുട്ടിക്ക് പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കുന്ന കഥ പോലെ മനോഹരമായ സംഗതി ലോകത്തിലില്ല. കാരണം അവിടെയാണ് കുട്ടി ലോകത്തെ കുറിച്ച് കഥകളിലൂടെയാണല്ലോ ഞാൻ ഇത് അറിയേണ്ടതെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ആ കുട്ടി സ്കൂളിൽ നിന്ന് വന്ന് ഒരു കള്ളക്കഥ അമ്മയോട് തിരിച്ചു പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ തിരിച്ച് കള്ളക്കഥ പറയുമ്പോൾ എന്ത് കിട്ടും? അമ്മയിൽ നിന്ന് കുറച്ച് കൂടുതൽ സ്നേഹം കിട്ടും, വാത്സല്യം കിട്ടും. അപ്പോഴാണ് നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നത് ഈ കള്ള കഥ പറയുന്നതിലൂടെയാണ് സ്നേഹം പിടിച്ചു വാങ്ങിക്കുന്നത്. അങ്ങനെ നിരന്തരം നമ്മൾ കള്ളങ്ങൾ അങ്ങോട്ടും ഇങ്ങോട്ടും പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടാണ് സ്നേഹിക്കുന്നത്. ഈ കള്ളങ്ങൾ എവിടെയെങ്കിലും പൊളിയുമ്പോഴാണ് പ്രശ്നം വരുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ പ്രണയത്തിലാവുന്നതിന് യു ഫോൾ ഇൻ ലവ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഒരിക്കലും അത് ഉയർച്ചയല്ല, ഫോളാണ്. യു സഡൻലി ഫോൾ ഇൻ ലവ്. ചുമ്മാതല്ലാതെ ടൈറ്റുള്ള ഒരു മൊമെന്റിൽ നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഡിപ്പ് വരികയാണ്, അടിച്ചു പോവാണ്. അത് ഞാൻ എന്റെ എല്ലാം നിനക്ക് തരുന്നതാണ്. എന്ത് കൊടുക്കുന്നു? I give you my everything. Actually, you give nothing. Everything means nothing. Why? Because at the core, you are nothing. ഏതാണ്ട് ഹൃദയത്തിൽ നിന്നാണ് മൊത്തം കാര്യങ്ങൾ കൊടുക്കുന്നത്. ഹൃദയത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ഒന്നും കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല നമുക്കറിയാം. പക്ഷേ you as a subject is hollowed out from within, as new theories of subjectivity teaches. So if you are a whole subject, what's the point in saying that I'm going to give you my everything? And the other person says, give me, I'll take. This is an exchange of nothing. This is an illusory exchange. That is why Kant says, love does not exist. He says, love does not exist. Immediately you connect it with the Heisenberg incident. You will understand more. You can go a level ahead. Secondly, Eliot was was definitely drawing on a lot of new narrative methods as practiced by Joyce. Joyce is a past master in this. He hated sentences. Remember? Again, he hated remember. That's why I loved it. He really cracked the syntax. Scanned aspectful grammar, syntax. And he says it is stream of consciousness. This is how your consciousness functions. Random images thrown at you. And you try to make sense out of these random images. So he introduced this stream of consciousness to disturb the narratives of realism. Narratives of realism were not adequate, I told you. So here I want you to just know two things. This is all for your future reference. This revolution at the level of form. By the way, what is form and what is content? Do you know what is form and what is content? Content is something you pack in a form. It's just like a food packet. You put some delicacies inside a packet and serve, and form is opened up and you consume the content. This is the conventional idea about form and content, but it is not so. It is more dialectical. Content acts upon the form, and form acts upon the content. This is an ongoing dialectic. So when you want to say something new, that something new is another illusion. Basically, old thing, you think it is a new thing. So when you want to say something new, you need a new form. So actually, you are not searching for it outside. It is lying somewhere and grab it and pack it. No, not like that. With the new thought, new content, the form evolves. So this is an organic dialectics without closure. It doesn't close. It goes on and on and on. So naturally when Joyce wanted to challenge the tyranny of realism, he thought about a new form which really challenges realism. But he was not thinking form as secondary. That is my whole point. Both these things occurred simultaneously. There is a synchronicity between form and content. Same way, a lot of other things were happening. Picasso, Cubist movement, Expressionism, all those things. But I want you to look at another movement, I will use cinema as a metaphor here, as a template here. You have Ingmar Bergman, who went into the psyche of the individual, just like Joyce. All the great films of Bergman were travel and Odyssey into the mindscape, into the unconscious of the individual. His silence, white strawberries, and he, like Eliot, was obsessed with death. White Strawberries and Seven Seas are all great films about death. And he always looked into the psyche of the character. So his films were actually, monologues, soliloquies of individuals talking about their inner life, which actually went diametrically opposite to the new realistic movement started in New Wave. But there is another guy, another filmmaker who is very interesting. He was my TV fascination, my fascination throughout. He died just recently. അദ്ദേഹം ആവശ്യപ്പെട്ടാണ് മരിച്ചത്. കഴിഞ്ഞ മാസം Grand Dora died at the age of 92. He requested, ദയാവധം ആവശ്യപ്പെട്ടു. What he did was something more brilliant. He is the one who told us a narrative, a cinema, must have a beginning that order. That is what he said. It should have all these three, but not necessarily in that order. He is the one who derived a lot from Bertolt Brecht, another arch enemy of realism. Bertolt Brecht, what he did is, he said, by giving this realistic place, by producing realistic place, you are giving your audience, your viewers, an illusory conclusion, whether it is tragedy or comedy, whatever it is. And you are just reinforcing the Aristotelian catharsis. And when you walk out of the hall, you are happy, you are peaceful, you are not disturbed. But Brecht said, art should disturb you. Art should make you think. What realism does is, it always has a conclusion, a resolution in the end. That is your climax. And you are ready to cry, you are ready to laugh, you are ready to be purged of these repressed feelings, suppressed feelings, whatever it is. But Brecht said, no, I won't let you do that. I won't allow you that freedom to do so. Then what did he say? He states that, suppose Mother Frog, if you take, Mother Courage, a play, Mother. A mother who loses 5 children in war, in a family, and her 6th son is going to the war. She pleads with him, don't go, but he said, I will go. Patriotism. And he is dead. And a messenger comes and tells her, your only surviving son is dead. Imagine how conventional plays would do that. This is a stage, this is a moment for the actor to perform. Professional ആളുകളാണെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ പൂന്തുള സീസൺ വീട്ടിലെ മകൻ മരിച്ചു എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെ വേണമെങ്കിൽ കരയാം. പക്ഷെ ബ്രെറ്റ് ചെയ്തത് എന്താണ്? ഈ അമ്മ ഉറക്ക കരയുന്നത് ഒരു തവളയുടെ ശബ്ദത്തിലാണ്. ഇപ്പൊ നിങ്ങൾ ചിരിച്ചു, അത് തന്നെയാണ് ഓഡിയൻസിന് സംഭവിച്ചത്. അവര് റെഡിയായിട്ട് നിൽക്കുകയാണ്, എമ്പതി വരാനായിട്ട്. അയ്യോ, ഇങ്ങനെ റെഡിയായിട്ട് നിൽക്കുകയാണ് ഇതുമായിട്ട് ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്യാൻ. കഥാസിന് വേണ്ടി റെഡിയായിട്ട് നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്കൊരു ഷോക്കാണ്, വേറൊരു ശബ്ദമാണ്. പെട്ടെന്ന് നിങ്ങൾ അതിൽ നിന്ന് വിട്ടിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾ ചിരിക്കുകയാണ്. That laughter is exactly what he wanted. He said, this is the laughter of the sheer nonsense called what? The sheer nonsense called nationalism. This is more political. Rather than choice of Bergman going into the individual psyche, this engagement with the real world or realistic narrative is more political, more powerful. And Godard took on that. But Eliot traveled in a very different manner. He was an ardent fan of James Joyce. And Ezra Pound is already mentioned. Ezra Pound is the one who castrated this poem. He edited it left, right, etc. He sliced it off. Have you seen the complete draft of the Wasteland? It's something entirely different. There is a randomness with which he chopped this text. It can be called, castration, circumcision, whatever. And Eliot gave him better craftsman, the beginning. See the beautiful tattered works. The son quite happy with the castration of the father and says that, oh, you are it. I will carry your legacy. So this is a male fantasy. No doubt about it. Sarah told about, women wailing and screaming and, women going mad, women, going mad over unfulfilled sex. Why women? That is the question to be asked. I gave you a title. political. My point is, if I elaborate on that topic, I require at least 2-3 more lectures. So I won't do that. But I am just showing you how I reached him. Who is the central character in Wasteland according to you? Who is the central character? He says, it is a central character.
Yes.
Tiresias. Why Tiresias? Because he is both man and woman. Right? Then why he? Why don't you say it is both man and woman? Why are you saying that it is both man and woman? He is both man and woman. He is neither man nor woman. But then definitely it is not a he. And how he became blind and he is, endowed with this power of clairvoyance? You know that myth. രണ്ട് ദേവതകൾ തമ്മിൽ ഉണ്ടായ തർക്കത്തിലാണ് ടൈറസിയസ് ഇങ്ങനെയാവുന്നത്. സെക്ഷൽ ഇന്റർകോഴ്സ് ആർക്കാണ് കൂടുതൽ പ്രഷർ കിട്ടുന്നതെന്ന് ഭാര്യയും ഭർത്താവുമായ രണ്ട് ദേവതമാർ തമ്മിലുള്ള തർക്കത്തിൽ വിധി പറയാനാണ് ടൈറസിയസിനെ കൊണ്ടുവന്നത്. ഈ ദൈവങ്ങളെ സമ്മതിക്കണമെന്നുണ്ട്. ഇങ്ങനത്തെ ഇഷ്യൂസ് വൺ ബെറ്റൊക്കെയാണ് അവിടെ നടക്കുന്നത്. എനിക്ക് ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ സംസാരിക്കാൻ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന പല കാര്യങ്ങളും ഞാൻ ഒന്ന് ബോധപൂർവ്വം മാറ്റിവെച്ചു കേട്ടോ. കാര്യം എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി ഇവിടെ ഭയങ്കര ഭക്തരാണ് മുഴുവൻ ആളുകളും എന്നുള്ളത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു വിശ്വാസത്തെ ഹനിക്കാൻ ഒരുപ്പെടുന്നില്ല. ഞാനൊരു നോൺ ബിലീവറാണ്. നോൺ ബിലീവർ അല്ല അതിന് പറയേണ്ടത്, വേറെ എന്തോടെ പറയേണ്ടത്. കാരണം ഒരു ലെക്കാനിയൻ ജോക്ക് പറയും. ഒരാളെ ക്ഷണിച്ചു. എന്തിനാണെന്നറിയോ? നമുക്ക് ദൈവത്തെ തേടി പോകാൻ പോകും. ഭയങ്കര കഠിനമായ അന്വേഷണ യാത്രയാണ്. ദൈവത്തെ ചുമ്മാ നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാലോ, ഭയങ്കര ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ് ദൈവത്തെ തേടിയുള്ള യാത്ര എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അതിന് പോകാം. അപ്പൊ അയാൾ പറഞ്ഞു ഞാനില്ല. കാരണം ദൈവത്തെ എനിക്ക് കണ്ടു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ തകർന്നു പോകും. എനിക്ക് ദൈവത്തെ ഫേസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അപ്പൊ അയാൾ പറഞ്ഞു ഒരു പ്രശ്നമില്ല, പുള്ളി ഇല്ല, വാ. അങ്ങനെ ഒരാളില്ല, ഒരാളെ. അപ്പോ with the knowledge that he is non-existent, you go on a journey to meet him. ഇത് ലക്കാൻ വളരെ പ്രസിദ്ധമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ജോക്കാണ്. കാരണം ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് പല മനുഷ്യബന്ധങ്ങളും എന്നാണ് അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്നത്. അനലിസ്റ്റും അനാലിസ്റ്റും തമ്മിലുള്ള ബന്ധം ഇങ്ങനെയാണ്. നമ്മുടെ മനോരോഗ ചികിത്സകന്റെ അടുത്ത് പോയി നമ്മളൊരു സെഷൻ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് അയാൾ നമ്മളെ സുഖപ്പെടുത്തും എന്നുള്ള കോൺഫിഡൻസിനാണ്. പുള്ളി സുഖപ്പെടുത്താനേ പറ്റില്ല. പക്ഷെ ഇത് അറിഞ്ഞിട്ടും നമ്മൾ പോവുകയും ഇത് അറിഞ്ഞിട്ടും പുള്ളി നമ്മളെ ചികിത്സിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ് അതിന്റെ രസം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അവിടെ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത് ഒരു നെഗറ്റീവാണ്. If you are familiar with theory, there is something called big other. Other with a big capital O. എന്താണ് ഈ സാധനം ബിഗ് അതർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്? ബിഗ് അതർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നു ഞാൻ ഇന്നലെ വരെ തകർന്നിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇന്ന് രാവിലെ ഞാൻ പള്ളിയിൽ പോയി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അമ്പലത്തിൽ പോയി പ്രാർത്ഥിച്ചു. അവിടെ നിന്നപ്പോ ദൈവം എനിക്ക് ധൈര്യം തന്നു. ഞാൻ നമുക്ക് ഫേസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകും. ഇതാണ് ബിഗ് അതർ. ഒരു ധൈര്യവും തന്നിട്ടില്ല. അവിടെ ഉള്ള നിങ്ങളുടെ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷനിൽ ഒരു ബ്ലാങ്കുമായിട്ടുള്ള നിങ്ങളുടെ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷനിൽ ഒരു എംപ്റ്റി മെസ്സേജ് നിങ്ങളിലേക്ക് നിങ്ങൾ തന്നെ കൊടുക്കുക നിങ്ങളുടെ ഉള്ളിൽ. അപ്പൊ ഈ ബിഗ് അതർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇസ് എ ഹ്യൂജ് ലാക്ക്, എ പ്യുവർ ലാക്ക്. ഒരു നിതാന്ത ശൂന്യതയാണ് നമ്മൾ അഡ്രസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അഡ്രസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ അതിന്റെ മറുപടി ഇങ്ങനെ എടുത്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. So I was hinting at Tiresias, who has an extremely problematic gender, and he witnesses everything. പുള്ളി വിറ്റ്നസ് ചെയ്യാൻ മാത്രമല്ല, he foretells. എവിടെയാണ് ഈ ഫോർട്ടലിംഗ് എന്നതിനോടൊന്ന് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പറയാം, ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടോ ടെക്സ്റ്റിൽ? ഞാൻ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ ലൈൻ എവിടെയാണ് സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്? I perceive the scene and foretell, I can foretell the rest. എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് the love making between typist and the love. ഒരു പാവം പിടിച്ച സീനിലാണ് പുള്ളി പോയി നിന്നത്, ഈ ബാധ്യത എടുത്ത് തലവെക്കുമ്പോൾ. ഇത് കേട്ടെന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്, ഇത് ആർക്കും ഫോർട്ടൽ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. അവിടെ വേൾഡ് വാർ സംഭവിക്കുന്നില്ല, ഇത് നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ നിൽക്കുമ്പോഴേ അറിയാം എന്താണ് സംഭവിക്കാൻ പോകുന്നത്. The way the imagery is there, pure disgust. So my point is, if perceiving the scene is and foretelling the rest is a political mission. എല്ലാ രാഷ്ട്രീയത്തിന്റെയും മിഷനാണ് ഈ സാധനം. You perceive a scene and you foretell the rest. ഇവിടുന്നാണ് ലോകത്തിൽ എല്ലാ വിപ്ലവങ്ങളും ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്, എല്ലാ ചേഞ്ചസും ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്. If that is so, I would argue that, ഇതാണ് എന്റെ ടൈറ്റിലേക്ക് ഞാൻ വരുന്ന സമയം, ഹൗ എന്നുള്ളത് എനിക്ക് എലാബറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ടൈം സ്പേസ് ഇല്ല. I would argue that the real protagonist in the real within quote, the real protagonist, real within quote, in the Wasteland is Madam's associates. Madam's associates, who had a bad cold, nevertheless known to be the wisest woman in Europe, with a pack of cards. Here, your card, she says. She says, you know, these are difficult times, be careful. She reiterated, be careful. Tough times, be careful, be careful. And there is a card missing. She loses a card. All her cards are present, but one card is missing. Which is that card which is missing from her? She says, where is your card? I can't find it. But that is the card she uses. That is the card. That is the card of the fisherman. Hand to God. You know how the poem is? The fisher king sitting against ruins and ruminating. So the whole narrative of the poem, how the poem's narrative is resolved, is foreseen by Madam's associates, not by insight, but by absence of insight. Because the card was absent. So Tiresias has insight, farsight, whatever, but Madam's associates, the fortune teller, by losing the vital card, she knows what is in store. So the real protagonist in this is a kind of counter reading you can perceive if you want read it. Madam's associates is a very important figure which controls female politics, feminist politics or female politics in the Wasteland. Because men come to her not for casual sex, but for the assurance of future. So she is the agency of change. She is the agency who can bring about change, historical change. So desperate men are coming, clueless men. But at the appropriate time, she misses her vital card. Why? Because the greatest teacher or the greatest revolutionary is the one who does it right, who revels in ignorance. The greatest teacher is the one who returns to you your anxieties. Like my Professor Harris did, he never consoled me with a certitude, consoled us with a certitude. We raised questions. He sent them back to us, and we are grateful for that. This is exactly what pedagogy has to perform. So that is why തക്ക സമയത്ത് കാട് കാണാനില്ലെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് മാഡം സൊസോസ്റ്റസ് ആണ് എന്റെ ഹീറോ എന്ന് കേൾവി പറയാം. It is not by full presence she delivers wisdom. It is by reiterating the absence and the ignorance she says that this is it. And the responsibility lies with you. Lies with the reader. She doesn't despise you. Like, the speaking subject in the poem who says, my Hippocratic reader, quoting Wasteland, doesn't undermine you by saying that, what are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say, Gus, for you know, only a heap of properly made snow. In Wasteland, there's a lot of reference tomorrow. What happens tomorrow? Tomorrow. What is in store for you? Don't miss that Shakespearean echo there. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace of time from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays are blinded forms away to dusty death. Out, brief candle. Life is but a walking shadow. A poor actor whose sets and threads is weary hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. This is Macbeth. This uncertainty of Macbeth and this cryptic wisdom encoded in tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury is elaborated into a very, very stressed out narrative by Eliot, but the sheer textual politics overpowers without him really knowing about it. And his own creation, like Madame Sosostris, declared freedom from his tyranny, and she became the agency of change in this great poem. I would say it's a great poem. My final word to you is, why the hell do you study literature? എനിക്കിതൊരു പ്രിയട്ട why do you study literature? ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന പലർക്കും എനിക്കറിയാം ഇതിന് ഞാൻ BEd ചെയ്യാം, MPhil ചെയ്യാം, എന്നിട്ട് എന്താണോ you study literature to teach literature. ഇത് ഭയങ്കര വിഷ്യസ് സർക്കിളാണ്. ഇതിനകത്ത് വേറെ ഒരു പരിപാടിയില്ല. ഭയങ്കര റിട്ടേൺ ഒരു സർക്കിളാണ്. നമ്മൾ ഭയങ്കര സീരിയസ് ആയിട്ട് ഒരു കാര്യം പഠിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇതെന്തിനാണ് പഠിക്കുന്നത്? പുറകെ പാവപ്പെട്ടവരെ പിടിച്ച് തിരിച്ച് പഠിപ്പിക്കാൻ. ഇതാണ് ലെക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്. നത്തിങ്ങിന്റെ എക്സ്ചേഞ്ച് ആണ് ഇവിടെ നടക്കുന്നത് എന്ന് പറയാനുള്ള കാരണം ഇതാണ്. അതിന്റെ ഒരു ജിസ്റ്റായിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യം ഇത് തന്നെയാണ് ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിന്റെ പ്രത്യേകത. ഐ എം നോട്ട് അണ്ടർമൈനിങ് ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ. ഐ വാസ് തിങ്കിങ് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. ഐ വാസ് coming here, sitting in my car, I was seriously thinking about it, because when Sabha invited me to this, I really accepted the invitation. For what reason I really do. That's a psychoanalytic moment of blindness. I accepted it. Perhaps I had this compulsion to talk about literature. Somehow. But to let the other, within me let loose. But literature's true significance lies in the fact that it is the only discourse in the world, perhaps, which resists final interpretation. You can never say that this is the final interpretation. There are only two things in this world which resist final interpretation. Resist totally, finally. One is madness, one is literature. So little wonder then that Eliot wrote it in a mental aside, and took the text and went to an equally mad Ezra Hall, who randomly edited it. And looking at that edit, Eliot was talking about the fragmentation of a word, but what he got is a fragmentation of his text. Okay, the way the word is fragmented, his text is also fragmented, and he was quite happy with it. അവിടെയാണ് ഭ്രാന്തും ആനന്ദവും എല്ലാം കൂടിക്കലർന്ന സാഹിത്യം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഈ വൻ സംഭവത്തിന്റെ എന്തോ ഒരു കുട്ടൻസ് നടക്കുന്നത്. ആ സാഹിത്യത്തിലൂടെയാണ് ഒരുപക്ഷെ നമ്മളായ ചരിത്രം നമ്മൾ അല്പമെങ്കിലും തിരിച്ചറിയാൻ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നത്. താങ്ക് യു.